do you think like Christopher Eccleston would do Big Finish? Because he said he'd never return to the role, or I don't remember exactly what he said. But
I have no idea.
Yeah, well, because what was his beef? Like his beef was mostly with the production, right?
Yeah, it's never been incredibly clear what exactly it was, but it was something to do with senior members of the production team at the time.
Oh, right.
And I think that he may also just generally be disinclined to like return to roles, but
yeah, I could see that. He seems like the kind of serious actor type that would be in great films such as G.I. Joe
and Thor 2.
right. But yeah, I don't know. Like, you know, I do really like the Ninth Doctor, though. You know, I wish we'd get more of him somehow.
Yeah. And I think he'd work well on audio.
Yeah.
But not yet.
Not yet.
I'm just hoping they bring back the Slovene at some point on Big Finish.
Oh, that's great, because the farts will play
They're
really well.
a perfect audio monster.
They are. They really are. Oh man, yeah, they are. They were meant for audio.
I'm Tom Dickinson.
And I'm Louis Midas.
And this is The Cloister Room,
a podcast about Doctor Who and other things.
What did you think of The Kingmaker?
I really liked it.
That's good. I love this one.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good. I'm glad you love it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I picked it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know, I because this was broadcast, I guess.
Oh, it was released. It wasn't released. It wasn't broadcast. It was
right.
It's a CD release.
Yeah. This was released in 2006, right?
I think 2006 or 2005. Probably 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2006. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool and fascinating to me that, you know, like a lot of the elements in this episode are elements that sort of appear in the new series, but not even this early in the new series. Like, you know, like the thing with them passing notes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's, you know, very reminiscent of like Blink and stuff.
Right.
And, you know, that wasn't until like a year later. And so, you know, it's really cool that, you know, this is really good like storytelling. Like this is storytelling on the quality of like the actual TV show, which, you know, is kind of cool.
Yeah. I think this is I think it's like just a very, like, it's a fascinating plot. It's also very funny. Like,
yeah,
I thought
it
was
is
often hilarious, but and it's got a very complicated timey-wimey plot of the kind that, you know, it makes more sense if you listen to it more than once.
Yeah. I was thinking, I wonder if I should go back and listen to it again, because you know, I feel like, you know, when you're doing like television, you can have visual cues and stuff, but like when on audio, it's hard to tell at first, like, okay, what's different here, and, you know, you're relying on the dialogue to sort of illuminate on things, and sometimes you know, when they're flipping back and forth kind of quickly, it's hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah, well,
at least that's what I found.
Yeah, some of the more difficult things were Perry and Aramem, it jumps from them in the TARDIS in Stratford to them in London, and they're talking about, the things we saw happened in whatever 1483, and you don't find out until later what it is that happened.
Oh, right.
Like,
right.
You only find out later the story about them, you know, meeting the prince, or rather the princess, etc., and, you know, running into Richard and Buckingham. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that only gets filled in later, which just adds an extra level of confusion because you've already got the two different timelines, and it's usually pretty clear when things are, if the Doctor or the companions are in the scene. But if it's just a scene with like Richard and, you know, one of his cronies, then it's not always all that clear when it's supposed to take place.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that was a little bit difficult to follow. But even in spite of all that, you kind of do get the gist of what's going on. And it is very interesting. It is a very interesting and intricate plot. And I do really like it. And it is very funny, though, because I love, like, the book series.
Well, that's a real book series.
Is it really?
Well, yeah, there's a book series called Doctor Who Discovers. And if you look at the cover art for this, it's actually got a picture of Peter Davison holding a book that looks very much like the actual Doctor Who Discovers books that were really released. And in fact, he even has a joke saying, like, it was either that or the novelty cookbook, and there was a Doctor Who cookbook.
That's great.
Yeah, that whole that whole thing with the robot, like, that, it's just like packed with like weird little jokes. And yeah, it's just very funny, I thought.
Yeah. And I liked his explanation for, it was originally the Doctor Who Discovers.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
Someone in the design department got it wrong, and Doctor Who stuck.
Yeah, I love that explanation. I think that's the best. And I think anytime there's a discrepancy, I think we can point to this and say, it's because of this somehow.
Maybe that's why Votan.
Exactly.
Maybe Votan just knew these books.
Exactly. Somehow, well, because they would have been, because he was talking that this happened with units, so I guess it would have been after Votan's time. But maybe, Votan sort of saw through time or something.
Probably.
Was able to, yeah, I'm assuming. And either was able to predict the coming of these books, and so, he picked up, he's like, I'm sure he's a little bit like IBM's Watson, where, he can get Jeopardy questions right most of the time, but every now and again he gets an answer that's just not quite right.
Right.
And so I'm sure that's what it was.
What did you think of the Fourth Doctor?
Well, so I looked it up, and because I knew it couldn't be Tom Baker, or at least I was pretty sure it wouldn't. But yeah. So it was in fact John Colshaw.
Yeah, it's John Colshaw.
I am stunned by how good that impression is.
It is a very good impression. Yeah, it's kind of discernible if you're familiar with the sketches he's done as the Doctor. Then you can kind of just about make it out. But yeah, it's a very good impression of the Fourth Doctor. He gets the the cadence and the rhythm like better than Tom Baker does in his audios. Yeah,
it's amazing. But yeah, no, I thought that was really funny. I loved I just loved this concept that the Fourth Doctor started this investigation and then just abandoned it at some point. I just love that concept, and I love that he just has these audios lying around of these notes.
Yeah, and I like how Perry says that doesn't sound like you, and then he says you never quite sound like yourself on tape, which is like this great like double meaning because A, it's not Tom Baker, and B, she doesn't know about regeneration yet. So it's like it works in multiple different ways, and there's so many like weird little clever things like that are just thrown in here that it just makes it such like a joy to listen to.
Yeah, no, it's really great.
What did you think of Aramem?
She seemed like this kind of like, I don't know, she seemed like this interesting, independent character who like, and I mean, I don't know how much we want to like spoil or whatever, but I
think we could spoil pretty much everything because there's a lot of twists in this story. Yeah. So if we're going to talk about it, we kind of have to spoil everything. So it's assumed that anyone who's listened to this will have listened to the Kingmaker. And I don't know if you would endorse this as well, but I say if you haven't, you totally should. You should pause this and then go listen to it because it's well worth listening
Absolutely.
to.
Yeah, take the 2 hours out, come back. We'll still be here. I
don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, we're just waiting on you, listener, to get your stuff together and just listen to this audio. Anyway, yeah, well, and I like that sort of. I mean, like obviously this is the first time I've encountered Aramem, so I don't know anything about her. But it was interesting how it took that kind of like dark twist at the very end, where she's suggesting like, oh, I actually totally was ready to commit suicide just there, or at least that's what it seemed like. That was what she was saying.
Yeah,
because she was.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the clear impression that's given. I don't know, and it's a little disappointing to me, but the rest of her storyline going on from this didn't really pick up on that.
Oh, really?
It didn't really take that and do anything with it. It was just like, there's this moment of tension where she's not sure how she feels about it, and it didn't like turn into a bigger rift. It didn't, blow up or anything like that. They just sort of went on.
Oh. That's a little disappointing.
Yeah, her RM's overall storyline is not one of my favorite storylines. Usually, when Big Finish introduces a companion, they do the best to like give them like a concept-driven storyline. Mm-hmm. And RM obviously has a very strong concept to her because she's like an Egyptian pharaoh, but there isn't like an arc. There isn't much of an arc, despite what it kind of seems like here. Like they're suggesting that there will be, but.
Yeah, I mean, like, she seemed like an interesting character at the time. I mean, yeah, that's disappointing though. I mean, because I would have really expected that to go somewhere. Because it is sort of dropped at the end, like as if it is significant and as if it's going to be significant.
Yeah, I don't know if they just changed their plans or what.
Well, and it's also, I also feel like I don't know where you go with that though, because I mean that is already a pretty dark place to be. I mean, so where do you go from there?
Well, I mean, I guess one thing you could do is like she tries something, and it, causes her to get kicked out of the TARDIS, or
that's true,
or like she becomes susceptible to being tricked by some other villain into doing something she shouldn't, or something like that. I don't know where exactly, but there are things you could do with that, like spring from, if not the suicide thing in particular, then also like the very different values of the two characters. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I guess there are places you could go, so it's a shame they didn't. So how did she get on board the TARDIS? Like, where did they? I mean, I guess they picked her up in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
I guess that's what. So she just decided to come with them, and there we are. And so, but this is supposed to take place what? Because it's between what, Planet of Fire and
the Caves of Androzani.
Okay, right.
So yeah, there's a whole lot of adventures that kind of get shoehorned in there, and this is one of them.
Okay,
including literal years for
right.
Perry.
Right. I have to say that was kind of shocking to me. That I mean, not that the Doctor really had a choice, but I mean that the Doctor let them be on their own for 2 years, and there's nothing he could really do about it. And that's so weird to me. Yeah,
it's a very, I don't know, it's not the kind of thing that happens in Doctor Who that often.
No.
But it's almost like what happened to Amy in The Girl Who Waited, but obviously to a different degree.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, that's what I was thinking too when I was thinking of like an example of this sort of thing happening in New Who, and that's really like it, or at least that's all I could think of, where, at least in terms of like actual years, I mean, and then that ended with it basically being a timeline that never happened. And so, it's kind of crazy to think that, no, this is just the way it did, like they just waited for 2 years, that was just it,
Yeah. It's funny though, because, if you watch Planet of Fire and then the Caves of Androzani, there isn't much of a sense that stuff happened between them,
right?
But I think to a certain extent, I think the attitude here might have just been like, well, as long as we're screwing with the timeline, we might as well just completely screw with it and
right.
add a couple of years in there for Perry. And I think that's just the sort of thing that Nev Fountain, the writer here, he's just kind of, I think he kind of liked the idea, so he ran with it.
Yeah, it's. You can do a lot more with, like, I don't know, the Seventh Doctor and Ace, because, the show ends and then, who knows what adventures they went on.
Right.
But, you are literally trying to wedge in however many, weeks or months worth of adventures into a space of in between 2 episodes. And, like, that is your only wiggle room. That's, like, the only gap there. So, yeah, there's nothing you can do. I mean, you're just going to have to admit that there's going to be some weird timey-wimey stuff or something, or just admit that there's no way this could possibly make sense, so just don't even bother.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing with what Big Finish is trying to do with these stories. I mean, you have the Seventh Doctor, like you say, it's easy to shove something in there. I mean, sometimes you have to, it chafes against the novels, but who cares? Who Forget about the novels. With the Eighth Doctor, obviously, that's a blank slate. They could do whatever they wanted there.
Oh, yeah.
With the Sixth Doctor, after the trial of a Time Lord, but before Time and the Rani, who knows what happens there? Because the trial of a Time Lord ends with the Sixth Doctor leaving with a version of Mel from his future that he hasn't met yet. And the Time and the Rani takes place obviously in both of their respective futures, even after that, because it's their last moment together. So you can whatever happens between those two, that's almost a blank slate as well. But with the Fifth Doctor, they've always kind of had to come up with some shoddy justifications for some stuff. Like we watched Time Flight, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In Time Flight, Nyssa is traveling with the Doctor, and then Tegan leaves, and then she comes back in the very next story, The Arc of Infinity. But Big Finish, just puts a whole bunch of stories between them where it's just the Doctor and Nyssa.
Right.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. I think there's this sort of like it's just kind of like an open secret that it just doesn't make all that much sense, but you're on with it because the stories can be fun.
Right, exactly, and that's all you really need is fun stories. And it just runs on fun story power.
Did you like Audio Perry?
Yeah, sure, why not? Why?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think she's not a very well liked companion on television.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think some people just think she's annoying with the fake American accent and the whining and stuff like that. But I think she comes across better in the audios because I think they make her seem like more of like an adult, and they give her more funny lines and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, like I didn't really. I mean, yeah. Well, and I think she's better at the accent now than she was when she was on television.
Mm-hmm. Still not super great.
No, not super great, but good enough. Good enough that if you don't think too hard about it, then it's probably fine. It's actually it's weird. I kind of forgot she was American until the Doctor mentions about how she doesn't have any culture or whatever. But yeah, no, I like her well enough. I mean, I don't think. Yeah, I guess she is more annoying on TV. But I don't mind her here. No, she's probably not like my favorite companion, but she's all right.
Well, okay. So did you notice the Ninth Doctor reference?
Oh yeah. They mentioned because when they're passing notes, they mentioned some guy with big ears. Yeah. Or something. I forget what the whole thing was. But
well, in order to get the notes to them, the Doctor has to at some point in his personal future drop notes off, and so it's suggested that it was a northern bloke with big ears dropped them off, which I think that got snuck in without the appropriate people noticing that it was a Ninth Doctor reference. So I think they weren't supposed to do stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were they not?
Because at this point, I mean, the new series has only been around for a year, and there's a hard line that they're not allowed to do new series stuff.
Huh.
It was at this point. Obviously now that's changed, but yeah. So I think that was something of a oops, we let that one through.
Well, it's weird because I mean, it's not really. I mean, that could be anything.
Yeah, it could mean anything. The Doctor could have a companion from the North.
Exactly. Who knows? Exactly.
Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah. So I mean, that's so oblique. I mean, like I wouldn't even. I don't know. That seems really like sure. I mean, it's a reference to the Ninth Doctor. I know it's a reference to the Ninth Doctor. I'm sure everyone who wrote or worked on Big Finish knew it was a reference to the Ninth Doctor. But I mean, it doesn't have to be. It's not definite.
Right. And also at one point, Richard says "fantastic."
Oh yeah.
In his working class northern accent, which sounds very much like Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that was the thing. I had to I don't know. Like there were points where he really did sound like the Ninth Doctor, and I was like, wait a minute, this could not be Christopher Eccleston, right? But no, I mean, it was weird because he does have that same very strong northern accent.
To we Americans, we can't really tell one northerner from another northerner.
Yeah, no. They're all the same. But yeah, I loved when everyone was giving when they were all talking about nicknames and someone said pleasant open-faced Pete.
Yes, that was a good one.
Yeah, there were a lot of really good things in this.
Yeah, just the general tone of the language used by all the characters from historical times. It was very like Monty Python, as opposed to like what you usually get in a Doctor Who historical. You usually get something a little bit more naturalistic, but like this just has like just the most over the top jokes like, would you like a seat in carousing or non-carousing? And just like stuff like that. It's just
right.
Honestly, I think it's just, it could be annoying if it weren't actually just well written and funny, but because it's so funny, it just works.
Yeah. No, it really does. Yeah, and you like those commemorative mugs or whatever. Like all these things seem so ridiculous, but it's just like they really roll with it and they commit to it. And I do really like how it turned out. Like, it doesn't feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel too forced or whatever. Like this could have gone way wrong, if they had like tried too hard, but or whatever. But it really works here. I just really like it, and it's just ridiculous enough to work, and not too ridiculous that it just becomes, I don't want to say unrealistic, but like just like it where it just sucks you out of the story or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I think it kind of adds to this strangeness where sometimes it'll just veer off into really dark territory,
right?
And it'll have Richard ranting at the Doctor like, you just come into our lives, you never have to make the hard decisions, and you're like, well, he's kind of actually got a point here, right? And he'll like say these things, and then it'll be like that, and then a moment later it'll be back to the comedy, and it's just it just gives it like a very interesting sort of feel to it. And I don't know, I mean, if it were worse writing, then it could just completely fall apart, just totally inconsistent. But it just, I don't know, it just, there's something about it that just like it comes together to make this great like dark comedy.
Yeah, it's really good. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, wow, like really the writing in this was just so really excellent.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Neb Fountain's work for Big Finish. He's one of their better writers, I think. He doesn't do enough for them.
Yeah, like, I mean, has he ever thought about doing like some writing for the actual show? Like, I mean,
well, I imagine he's thought about it. But I think they should consider him, because he I don't know, I think this kind of voice it fits in with the new series.
It does. It really does. Yeah, you get that kind of ridiculousness, like, especially, well, like, I mean, especially in the Russell T Davies era, but I mean, like, still even now, you still get these kind of ridiculous, situations and stuff, and jokes and stuff. And yeah, I would love to see him do an episode of actual Doctor Who television.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be all for that.
He, as it happens, he's in a long-term romantic relationship with Nicola Bryant.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. How about that? Huh. Well, so I mean, like, he really, he's deep into this, He needs to be writing for Doctor Who the show. I mean, like, he just needs to.
Yeah, I'd love to see that, but
yeah.
Now, how familiar are you with the Shakespeare play Richard III?
I read it in high school, and I really don't remember it.
Okay, but you did read it.
I did read it. I'm pretty sure I read it.
So were you familiar enough with the general gist of it to like find the character identifiable from the play? Or?
I mean, kinda, maybe. I mean, like, high school was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's true. Some people are still in high school.
Yeah, wow. But yeah, it's
not us.
Very fresh for them.
Yeah, I didn't actually read it in high school. I think I read it in college, but
okay.
Yeah, so I read it more recently. But it's I don't know. He's just like a nasty asshole in the play, and I had a vague recollection of it involves this king guy who kills his nephews and stuff. So yeah, I think they give you enough to follow the story.
Yeah.
Without the audio provides you with what you need to know.
Well, right, because he's talking about all the time travelers who came to see him when he was really young, and they're all talking about whether or not he's going to kill his nephews.
Yeah.
So
that's a great concept too.
Yeah, no, really. Like, and you'd think that would really mess a person up. And I mean, I guess to an extent, maybe and like that really kind of. You really would think there would be some kind of law or sanction against time travelers coming back and doing this, but I guess maybe these are just the ones who, sort of snuck over the fence or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever, who knows. But yeah. I mean, like, that is definitely an interesting concept, and you'd think you'd see more of that throughout history. I mean, like, I'm not necessarily talking like in the real world, like if time travel were possible, then wouldn't you see time travelers? But like I mean, certainly in the Doctor Who universe, you'd expect there to be time tourists.
Yeah. If the series were to satisfy that expectation, it would get old.
It would,
because you wouldn't want every story to just have every famous person the Doctor meets has the same complex where they've been all their life they've been haunted by time travelers from the future who have been putting expectations upon them. It's such a fascinating idea, but it would get really old if the series did it as much as it really should.
Right. Yeah. Because and that's the thing is, we're led to believe in the Doctor Who universe. At least we were, around series, or I guess anywhere between series 1 through 4. We were definitely led to believe, and even further on, that time travel is something that a lot of people have. There's the time agency.
Yeah.
And so if a whole government, I guess, is it? I don't know. Agency has the ability to travel through time. That's like what they do. You'd think like there'd be other organizations that also, have time travel and have that ability.
Yeah.
So surely that would have come at some point, to the private sector, and it would have come, to travel agencies.
Yeah, and people would use it in this way.
Yeah. Like you'd almost have to. Yeah, you'd think that would definitely be the case, because then the Doctor would have to either avoid these people or like the story would just like get bogged down with all this stuff, if it were to be like realistic, which
yeah.
Thank God Doctor Who is not trying to be realistic.
No, but sometimes it just picks and chooses tiny areas of realism that it wants to participate in for the moment,
right?
And often to great effect.
Yeah, and that's good. That's real good.
Yeah,
I think that's the way it ought to be. Mm-hmm. Voluntary participation in reality.
Did you fall for the misdirection with the Master?
I did. I totally did. And I even because I know that
the Big Finish has its own Master, right?
Right. Well, and they were using Jeffrey Beavers.
They do use Jeffrey Beavers.
Okay, and then they do also have like their own actor who plays the Master, right? Or is that?
Yes, they do have their own Master, but it's relatively recent, more recent than this.
Oh, okay.
So, but I was thinking about, is Lewis going to know that? I was just kind of curious to know whether you'd be fooled by it, and because I think when I first listened, I wasn't sure, and then I got progressively more and more fooled by it, and I certainly didn't see the twist coming that it was William Shakespeare.
Yeah, I didn't see that at all. I mean, that was really, really shocking. I mean, like they definitely do. Like, I mean, yeah, I think like it started off where it's like, okay, because they introduce it, okay, here's this time traveler, he's talking about being a time traveler, so on and so forth, at first I'm like, all right, well, I know that there are other Time Lords who travel, in time, so maybe this is one of them, but then, gradually, he's getting more and more of a description, and, they keep building this up, and I'm like, oh, well, maybe it is. I mean, like, I thought it wasn't the Master, but, I mean, it certainly seems like it's he's got this goofy plan like the Master would have, and so, I kind of built it up in my mind, like, well, maybe this is it, and I mean, well, and I looked at the cast, and I looked at, and I knew when this had been, published or released, and so I was thinking like, okay, well maybe this was too early for them to establish Jeffrey Beavers or whatever, or maybe they just wanted to get their own Master character, who I don't know. So like I was trying to mentally justify it, and so but by the end I was fully expecting it to actually be the Master, but then it wasn't, and I thought that was really fun. I thought it was really funny that even Perry was going on about how it was the Master.
Yeah. I don't know. That was such a good. That's such a good misdirect, and it's so funny too. That it's just William Shakespeare. It's like, what the hell, and then it just ends up making sense.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Exactly.
Only whether the extent to which it matches up with the Shakespeare Code, that's another question.
Right. There's the issue of the Shakespeare Code. There's actually because I was this sort of dawned on me that later in Mark of the Rani, the Sixth Doctor and Perry have this discussion about. Well, it seems to be about Shakespeare because the Doctor quotes Shakespeare, but I remember discussing that for this podcast, and and it seems like at that point in time, the Doctor is suggesting he's met Shakespeare, and Perry is surprised by that. Although I guess I guess he doesn't actually say Shakespeare. He says like the Bard or whatever, and so that leaves some wiggle room, maybe a little bit. Like we could say because I guess by the end of this, Richard III has assumed the identity of Shakespeare.
Yes. Yeah.
So we could say that maybe the Doctor is referring to Richard III here, although that still wouldn't make sense in terms of Perry not remembering any of this.
Yeah, I just have to sigh and say, oh well. I mean,
right.
At a certain point, I can't really care that much about that. If I didn't like this story, I might choose to.
Right.
But yeah, and it is like, I mean, because the Shakespeare Code should take place after this.
That's right. Yeah.
In terms of Shakespeare's life.
Right.
So, are we supposed to interpret that as like that's Richard III?
Oh, maybe that's why he has more hair. Although he doesn't have the arm,
the withered
issue.
Arm or the limp.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe he got some physical therapy, some much needed physical therapy, and he sort of bounced back.
Yeah. Just doesn't make sense, but oh well.
Yeah, and I'm completely fine with just ignoring the fact that it doesn't make any sense at all. Because there's even and I read this a long time ago, but there was I read like a 10th Doctor novel, and in that he actually mentions something about Shakespeare too. I don't remember what, but
would this have been published prior to Series 3?
Yes, it must have been. Yes,
like the 10th Doctor and Rose novel.
Yes, it was a Doctor and Rose novel. That's right. So there's even more. There's a lot of references where it doesn't really make sense or sync up or whatever, but you just gotta. It's so weird that like Shakespeare keeps coming up though, as like Shakespeare is like one of the most prominent ones where they have conflicting references because
Yeah. Well, I mean Sherlock Holmes too.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, because Sherlock Holmes is a character in the novels, and I think Big Finish is doing an upcoming adaptation of that novel with the Seventh Doctor, and they're gonna have that be the Nicholas Briggs version of Shakespeare from of Sherlock Holmes from Big Finish's Sherlock Holmes series.
Huh.
So I guess maybe just Nicholas Briggs is playing Vastra. I don't know. I mean, those are supposed to be understood as the same person.
Yeah, you never know.
And the twist where the princes were actually princesses.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that one coming, or?
I didn't see that one coming at all.
Yeah, that one was that's another swerve, but it was, I don't know, it was very good because those were great characters too. The barmaids who turned out to be the princesses. Yeah, that was. Yeah, another thing that I actually, in preparation for this podcast, I listened to it and I just thought, you know what, I enjoyed that so much, I want to listen to it again. So listening to it twice in quick succession like brought out some of the subtleties for me. Like one thing is in the beginning, in I forget whether I think it's part 1, the Doctor, like those two barmaids lead the Doctor to the princes, and he watches them from a distance and sees them doing exercises, and they do jumping jacks.
Right.
And then later in the audio, in probably the third part, Perry and Aramem see the Doctor from a distance with 2 other people that Perry thinks are his new companions.
Right.
And they wave at him, and I guess the Doctor thought it was jumping jacks. And it's I didn't connect those two until listening a second time. But
yeah, well, yeah, because that's definitely the thing is because you've got all these different time jumps, and you've got the Doctor and Perry and Aramem separated, and so it's hard to keep track of all these things. But yeah, it's really funny and intricate how that all sort of connects together. That's really cool. But yeah, I do really want to listen to it again because I feel like, especially initially, like when I was first kind of like trying to catch up to what was going on, I feel like I probably missed a lot of the better dialogue, or at least some good dialogue. I imagine got missed by me just reeling from, trying to figure out, okay, so who's where and what's going on, and who's where in relation to each other, and so I feel like it would benefit me to go back and listen to it again. So, so I'm glad that this was so good, so that it'll hold up. Or I hope it'll hold up to repeat viewings or repeat listenings. And so.
Yeah, I have found that this is one of the best Big Finish audios for that. But if only because it's got that complexity that allows you to recognize new things, and B, it's just the jokes are funny, so those are always pleasant to hear, and the performances are good. So yeah.
So no, this is a really good one. This was like on par with like an episode of television Doctor Who. I don't know. I would like to see Nev Fountain do television Doctor Who.
He more recently did a story called The Widow's Assassin, which is another Perry story, but it's actually the Sixth Doctor going to see Perry and Yrcanos.
The who?
Yrcanos, who she marries after Trial of a Time Lord.
Oh, right. Wow. Okay. Huh.
But I actually haven't heard that one yet, so I am looking forward to listening to that one. But
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but this one is actually, I think this is actually one of the ones I would most recommend to people who haven't heard Big Finish audios before. And I think when we were doing random stories, the Fifth Doctor audio I had thrown in there was, I think, Spare Parts, not this. Okay. And I think just when I decided what we were going to listen to for a Fifth Doctor audio, I swerved away from that because I realized, wait a second, this is much better than Spare Parts. So, not that Spare Parts is bad, but it has the reputation of being the best Fifth Doctor audio. But I think this one's better.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it would be hard to be better than this. I mean, it really is. It's just, wow. I mean, I get, there's like nothing really wrong with it. I mean, like, it's got like an excellent, really interesting plot. I like the historical, because I do like the stories where, there's an actual historical event that's kind of a mystery and we don't really know what actually happened, and there's all these theories and stuff. And so, I love that, I love it when a Doctor Who episode will explore that. And so, I love that kind of a plot. I thought all the characters were great. And, and then on top of all that, they had these really great, excellent twists that came in at different points that just completely turned everything that you thought was going on, upside down. And it's excellent.
Yeah. And I think I'd probably call this a pure historical. If only because, I mean, I would generally say that a pure historical is a story where the only science fictional element is the fact that the characters are time travelers. Which, I mean, there's a laser gun, but
right.
But it's the Doctor and his companions plus the other time traveler being Shakespeare, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I would consider this to be a pure historical. Yeah, sure. I mean, like, yeah, and actually, jumping back, it's funny because it should have been a dead giveaway that I was about to say the Master, Shakespeare was using just a regular ray gun instead of the tissue compression eliminator.
Right, yeah.
And I should have seen that coming because
well, that wouldn't have been a giveaway for Shakespeare.
That's true. That
would have just been a not the Master.
Right. Yeah, but I would have been less fooled. And I even thought about that, like, hey, that's weird that he's not using his tissue compression eliminator. But I thought maybe the tissue compression eliminator wouldn't quite work as well on audio. Like maybe they couldn't do the same sort of shrinking doll-like appearance. It doesn't work as well on audio, I don't think. So
probably not.
They mentioned was it ginger beer that has an effect on Time Lords?
I think they say ginger pop.
Ginger pop.
I don't know the differences between those two things, though.
They both sound British. Well, no, pop sounds like it's American, I guess. I don't know. Pop doesn't sound like, I don't know. Anyway, is there a track record of that? Because I think at least in the Unicorn and the Wasp, the Doctor uses ginger beer as part of like an antidote. So is it just a ginger thing? The Doctor's never been ginger.
Well, I mean, the only other reference to it I can think of is in a Fourth Doctor story called The Android Invasion, in which Sarah Jane is said to hate it. That's the only thing I can remember. I can't think of the Doctor. Like, the Doctor didn't have any particular, I don't know, thing to say about it as far as I remember.
Well, and that's maybe and so what I can't remember exactly what they said here. Was it that it has an effect on the Doctor, or it has an effect on Time Lords in general? On
Time Lords, I don't know, it gets them drunk or whatever.
Yeah.
It's apparently also an antidote for cyanide, according to the Unicorn and the Wasp, but I don't see why it can't be both.
Yeah, sure. No, why not? I mean, like, I think I imagine that there are uses for we have uses for alcohol, although it's mostly for disinfecting. But I mean, I could see it having both. Well, and even Coca-Cola originally started as like a kind of tonic or whatever that would cure your ills. I mean, that was because it had cocaine in it.
Yeah,
but
very good ill cure.
That's got to help with something. But yeah, so I imagine it has both recreational and medicinal uses. Sure. I can buy that.
So next we were going to do Colditz?
Colditz, yes.
Yeah. Colditz. Yeah, that was also not the one I threw in the randomizer.
Right.
Yeah, I did Master before.
Ah. Right, because that was that was supposed to be what, like the
part of the villain trilogy.
Right, the villain trilogy, right, with because we did listen to Davros.
Yes, we listened to Davros. And actually the Fifth Doctor entry in that was Omega, which was by Ned Fountain.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, how about that? Yeah, wow. I kind of want to listen to more of Ned Fountain's stuff now.
Yeah, he also did a really good episode of Big Finish has a series called The Confessions of Dorian Gray. Did you ever read The Picture of Dorian Gray?
No, I really want to, but I've never actually read it.
Yes, it's a quick read. But the Big Finish basically did they have a series that follows Dorian Gray after the events of the novel, and it's like a fantasy horror series, mostly like half-hour fantasy horror stories.
Interesting.
And Ned Fountain did a completely it wasn't a comedy at all. It was like a short like horror fantasy drama thing, and it was it was really, really good.
Yeah, wow. I really want to like listen to more of Ned Fountain's stuff now. I think.
Yeah, and he's also actually did this series for Big Finish. He wrote 3 novels called Mervyn Stone, which are murder mysteries about where the main character, who like the detective is, I think he's a former writer for like a cult science fiction TV program. So like one of them takes place at like a convention, one of them takes place I don't know. So it's and he wrote these for Big Finish. So Big Finish published them, and I think there was also like an audio that they did, but yeah, these are other things that I need to get around to. Yeah, I'm very impressed with the work that I met him briefly at LA Hucon last year.
Oh, cool.
And he does good work when he works with Big Finish. I don't know that much of what he's done beyond that, but
yeah, I gotta get on this. So is Colditz another like considered great episode of?
I think I'd say it's considered significant.
Okay.
And a lot of people really like it, including me.
Okay.
And it has David Tennant in it.
Oh, in more than just like a one-line role.
Yeah, he plays a significant role.
Oh, nice. So now, was this made before he was the Doctor, or?
Yes, it's actually a very early. It's a very early one. I want to say it's like 25 in the ones that they did. So that would be what year? Probably 2003. No, 2001. Wow. 2001.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, this was in 2001. It features David Tennant.
Well, I look forward to it. This is exciting.
Yeah, I think for some of these earlier ones, the production's a little less. It's a little rougher.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how much that's the case with Colditz actually, but I don't know. There's something I can't really put my finger on it, but like the production design in the newer ones, but like the music tends to be better.
Huh.
Sound effects tend to be better. The mixing tends to be better. But the older ones, many of them are very, very good anyway. So, and this is it's a very interesting one.
Wow, I look forward to it.